Eric, you'll probably have to help me with that. All right, cool. So good morning, Anthony and Eric. How are you guys doing this morning?
Doing well.
Doing great.
You guys said that with so much confidence. I love it. It is March 6th. It is bright and early. I am here at our Reference real estate office. And just another quick ep of the market minutes, right? So I know that, Anthony, you're joining us from NRL Studios up in Danvers, Massachusetts. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Sweet. And Eric, what are you in your basement in your PJs right now?
No PJs, in the basement in my home office on the South Shore.
Love it. Love it. So listen, just another quick update on what's happening in the market. I figured it'd be great to talk about a little bit of mortgage stuff, obviously ebbing and flowing by the day. Anthony, you will catch us up on that. And then we want to continuously just hit on what's happening with inventory, what's happening with rates, big next 7 days when it comes to, well, maybe 10 days, when it comes to the economy, with jobs report coming and with another round of inflation data the following week. I'm going to have a kid around the same time. So, maybe the mortgage minutes will be few and far between. I'm going to still try and do it. I'm not sure if Jen's going to be very supportive of that. I'll have to get a noise-proof studio or something like that, or make excuses to come to the office. So listen, good morning, guys. Why don't you just quick intro for joining us on the minutes here, and then we'll hop right into the data. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Anthony, take us away, bro.
All right, cool. I am Anthony LaPolla with NRL Mortgage, and we are out of Danvers, Mass. I don't know how much further you want me to go with that, but that's good. That's a quick intro. You've been on the word before, so we'll let it ride. Maybe the listeners know you. We're just going to drop this right in that same thing, because I don't really want to manage 3 separate podcasts. So I don't blame you.
We're just gonna keep burying it in the word pod and see if I can get away with it for a while. Eric?
Cool. So my name's Eric Bourgea. I'm a full-time real estate agent. I've been with Seth and team since 2019. Mostly cover the South Shore area, as well as East Boston, Winthrop, Revere, the area that Reference Real Estate does a lot of our business. So excited to be on. I have not been on the word before, so I am new on this side.
No invite.
No invite. I'm new on this side of it. Excited to chat.
This is kind of like an invite, but not really. And 2019 with Seth and team should be a t-shirt. I don't know. Maybe. It's kind
the
of
OG.
well. He is the OG.
You got it.
He is the longest standing member of the Reference group, other than yours truly. So cool. Well, let's just hop into it, right? Because we already wasted 3 minutes. So Anthony, catch us up. What's the deal with rates? I know I've been talking a lot about this. We've spent a ton of time talking about this, over the last 6 months or so.
Yeah.
And I know that I was mentioning you this the other day while we were catching the Bees game on a little downtime Saturday afternoon. Sold all the inventory. Shocking. As the market has really heated up here in the last 14 to 21 days. But we were talking a lot about how inventory is crunched, how rates are significantly different, and also, how much more we've been dedicated to sharpening the axe, so to speak, of getting sharp on the market data and the economy, and how much more in depth this has all made us, I think, right? So why don't you just catch us up on the scoop?
Yeah, cool. So, we came into the year with rates looking better than they had over the last couple of months, and they improved through January. Then we hit February and things kind of fell out of control. We had a less than favorable CPI, and then we had that wild jobs report, whatever it was, 2-3 weeks ago now.
Yeah, we were talking about that a lot last week.
Yeah, just spiked up rates.
CPI for the listeners is Consumer Price Index, aka inflation data.
Yeah, Fed's favorite measure of inflation, or one of the favorite measures of inflation. So basically, you and I joked about it, right? Where rates hit 5.99 one day, and then immediately the following day they were back at 6.25, and now they're sitting 3 basis points shy of 7%.
Sick.
Yeah, super fun. This is all great. But that's going to change on a week-to-week basis. We get another round of that CPI coming out next week. I think that's going to be very positive for the market.
I do too.
We also have an update, the next release of the jobs report coming this Friday. So that should look, it can't look worse than the last one did, from a rate perspective. So
I was reading some jobless claims report that broke the other day, and the number of first-time claims for unemployment benefits fell to 190,000 last week, a drop of 2,000 from the week before, and shows further strong evidence of the job market. Thoughts?
I think the job market looks strong, and you've said this in prior episodes. It's because people are picking up second jobs. They are not replacing or picking up, full-time work. So the numbers are skewed. The data is skewed. I don't think it's giving the right impression.
You know what I was thinking, because that's very specific to unemployment and obviously jobs added, all that type of stuff. Do either of you guys know if severance from all these big tech layoffs means you cannot file for unemployment? I think it does.
Ooh, I don't know. I would agree with you. I think it does.
I don't think you can double dip.
Yeah, it's a good question.
That's why I would believe what you said, that you cannot.
I don't know about that. I feel like you might be able to double dip in that situation.
Trying to remember from the Best Buy days. I think if you opted for severance, you couldn't get unemployment.
Yeah, we're gonna have to figure this out.
Let's see. So this is the funnest part. I just go Google. If you get severance, oh, dude, it's a top search. Can I collect unemployment if I receive severance pay? If you sign a severance agreement that includes a release of claims against your employer, you can collect unemployment while you're receiving severance pay. So I think maybe you may not be eligible for unemployment insurance benefits or unemployment benefits if your only source of employment was working, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't matter. So I don't know. Maybe think severance pay is not wages for unemployment insurance purposes. It does not affect the claimant's eligibility for unemployment benefits. So
there you go.
That's what we call fake news. Apparently, you would still think that unemployment claims would go up if all these tech layoffs happen. I would wonder if for lack of a better word, the churn in the labor market. So I get laid off from Facebook. I go get a job at Apple. Job added in the economy, right? And who knows, man? I mean, it's so tough. The data doesn't make any sense.
I would have to agree with you. Doesn't pass the eyeball test, as I like to say.
Cool. I heard a good analogy this morning about the Fed. You ready for this one? The Fed is like a soft quarterback. It can't stay in the pocket. It had a good game plan. The second there's a pass rush, takes a knee. Right. So I thought that was a good one. I heard that on Housing Wire Daily. They're just like, they keep dodging the plan. Like they just need to have a little bit of confidence in the pocket. Right. Keep making the call, keep throwing the ball, and trust the OL. Right. But it doesn't seem like they're doing that. They're being a little dodgy. They're a little flip floppy, and I don't know. I think that's continuing to cause the significant volatility in the market for sure.
I think one of the worst things out of the Fed is that we've heard repeatedly for the last few months that they are going to be data dependent. And when the data changes every given month, then their trajectory changes every given month. And there's just no consistency to it.
Yeah, it's very stupid.
Agreed.
What do you think is going to happen in the next couple of weeks?
With rates? Or just generally?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just in life. What's March looking like? What do you think, man? I mean, do you think this jobs report is going to be worse, and therefore bonds will respond? What's your take?
I don't see how it can be worse specifically for the markets. It was a big surprise last month when it was over 500,000. I don't see that happening again, but I'm no expert on the jobs report. I'm just kind of hypothesizing here. I think rates take a turn in March, for the better. We kind of get back to that previous downward slope and things start to overall look a little bit healthier. But obviously the data is going to tell us that. And if CPI comes out a little bit hot and, I could be eating my words in 2 weeks.
Interesting. Eric, you got a hot take? No, the police are coming. I don't know if you guys heard that. Sorry about that. It's here in the hood.
I think it's been confusing a lot of our buyers, right? Because they've had some conflicting messages. Rates have been going in the right way. Now they're going back in the wrong way. And I think they're in this position where they don't really know what to do. Should I stay in the market? Should I get out of the market and see what happens? And the reality is like none of us know what's going to happen. And I think that the wrong move is to remove yourself. You know, if you stay in it, you stay looking, you're going to stay educated. You're going to get sharper on what's going on. And I think, you know, it seems to be unanimous that like things will be heading in the right direction. It just depends on how long that's going to take, right? So I think we're all excited to see this new data coming out, just so that we can, you know, re-educate these buyers on everything that's changing. Like Anthony said, like all this data is coming out and it's making things go one way or the other way, and we don't know which way that's happening. So it's important for any consumer to just like be looking at the market and be paired with someone that can walk you through, okay, it's like this happened this week, so that's what this means for this week. And that's not necessarily going to carry into the following week because things change so rapidly. You know, so I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think that we're not going to get any worse. But I think we have to be prepared either way to make sure that we're educating, you know, our buyers and sellers on what to do, in the moment in, you know, week 1 of March, which might be different than week 2 of March and so forth, you know?
Yeah. I think, if you look at it in hindsight, when the market was volatile for the last 9 months to actually, it's been volatile for a year now. Let's just call it what it is. So if you stepped out of the market at any point in the last year, let's just be clear, that was the wrong decision, right? Yep. Prices have continued to go up. Inventory was high for a while. It was a great time to buy last summer. In the volatility market, you probably had an opportunity to refinance already. Maybe that was only into the low 6s or maybe at the high 5s. If you caught the August, September dip, maybe you were a little bit lower, you know, and then this tight inventory position over the last 4 months, there was still limited to no buyer competition. And now all of a sudden, I mean, I was out all weekend with clients in the field, and dude, it didn't matter where I was. There was 30, 40, 50 buying groups at houses in Wilmington and Tewksbury and Danvers and all up and down the North Shore, and same in Winthrop. Like, it just didn't matter. And, you know, I was having like these huddle conversations with buyers in like the semi-finished basement in the corner. And we're just talking about, you know, what does an offer look like for this place? And just surely based off the traffic. Unfortunately, the reality is we're talking about waived inspections. We're talking about waived appraisal waivers because now things might have stopped appraising from a different standpoint, you know, because the market compressed a little bit in the fall, and it's just a different market. And not only that, rates are 7% again. So the reality is they should have been in the market the whole time. And so I think I would concur with you, Eric. The reality is if you step out of the market, it is more than likely the wrong decision. Even if you stay in the market, the reality is you will become one of the most educated buyers over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 months. And if prices go down, you will be ready to strike and you will be super knowledgeable. And if you step out, more than likely you will see a moderate rate increase in your rent. If you are renting, you will see a moderate increase in appreciation if you are a home owner. And ultimately, when rates go down, hopefully there's a little bit more madness in the market, but it's going to be super competitive again. So the reality is you should absolutely stay in the market.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think a lot of the data that we'll highlight too is a little bit interesting. It's a little bit misleading actually, because there's actually increased inventory. It's just inventory that's been sitting. There's a lot of old inventory, right? So I think in a lot of the counties that I cover, the average days on market is like 90 days. So that's bringing us back to December, right? So I think if you're a buyer right now, you should keep your eyes on some of that older stuff. Find some of these motivated sellers that maybe you can take advantage of the seller assisting you with things to get through this period of high interest rate, right? If you have a plan, a 2-year plan to be able to put yourself in a position of refinance, or maybe put yourself in a position to have a good 2-1 buy down, I do think there's pockets of opportunity for some of this older inventory that's been sitting when the market was a little bit different. To your point now, like the new inventory that's coming out, it's getting snatched. It's competitive. And, we looked at some data the other day, like most, if you look at a certain zip code, most stuff is going, 105% plus to list price. So when you're even starting to consider making a competitive offer, even aside from some of those contingencies, like that's where your mind is at right now, so I think you just have to be, looking at this bigger picture for your consumer on how to succeed in the market now. Maybe, getting that 7% interest rate is not ideal, compared to where it was for that blip of a day at 5.99. I was looking at some numbers, like on a $500K mortgage, that's like $400 difference a month that buyer's having to take at a 7% interest rate. That's impactful, right? That's a lot of affordability. So how do we make a good plan for them to feel comfortable doing that now, knowing that, rates, if they continue to head in the right direction at the back half of the year and into 2024, like having that clear plan of, when it's time to refinance to get some of that back, I think is really important. So I think the buyers these days just have a couple different options. You want to make sure you're considering both ends of the spectrum there on some of that older versus new inventory, and really what that means in the plan.
Yeah, let's unpack a few things here, and I'm going to try and keep my thoughts clear because I'll already forget what I was going to say. But here's the deal: so $300 to $400 to $500 more per month. And I know Anthony and I haven't been talking about this, but dude, the national grid bill is $300, $400, $500 more per month. So the reality is, whether you are a renter or a homeowner, and I know this isn't perfect math, you are paying more money per month, period, right now. Okay?
Absolutely. Yep.
And so there's so many different towns that either have municipalities where you can avoid that. There's solar install on your primary residence that you can try and avoid some of that stuff. And then, oh, by the way, did you know, just quickly, I'm pulling it up, the residential rental market, right? Average increase in the state of Massachusetts year over year right now, all of Massachusetts.
7.
Seven what?
7%.
You're actually dead on. It's 7.68%. And for all of Massachusetts, that equates to $200 year over year in a rental increase. Now, as you go micro market, obviously that gets a little bit more volatile. But and the reason I'm talking about this is rent is part of CPI data, right? And housing costs is part of that. There's downward pressure on rents right now, finally. And I have just a quick hot take on rent. For those that are landlords like myself, we gave a lot of tenants a 10, 15, 20% cut during COVID, right? So we had people that got laid off, they were furloughed, they couldn't afford it, they moved out, and then we had trouble renting apartments. So rents came down. Personally, I lost anywhere from 10 to 20% per apartment on the vacancies that were created. So when you start to hear the stats that rents are up 30% year over year, the reality is they were artificially deflated by 10, 15, or 20% sometimes. So rents are back to where they were. And sure, they're definitely a little bit higher as well. Locally, we're seeing $500, $600 increases in like the East Boston and Winthrop market. It's anywhere from $300 to $600, depending on the type of unit that it is. But the reality is, you're paying it, dude. You're paying $300, $400, $500, $600 more per month, depending on where you live. If you live around the Boston area. And so at the end of the day, personally, I think one of the reasons that is causing this new wave of traffic to open houses is the reality is people are paying it. Might as well own, right? What's the deal, right?
Yep.
And hopefully, while things are maybe a little bit less competitive, I think we're already gone through that. I can buy something and then hopefully, sure, hop into the refi market as long as it comes, whenever it comes, do the 2-1 buy down, whatever, and stop paying the extra that you're paying. And then lastly, rents, like Revere, Massachusetts, it's down year over year already. So we're starting to see some rent relief in these areas. And hopefully that's a great leading indicator to consumer price index dropping or being under expectations, hopefully in March.
Makes sense.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah. I think there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot you can do with homes that have been on market 90 days, to Eric's point.
No doubt.
There are a lot of ways the seller can help a buyer from just a payment interest rate perspective. And let's all agree, I think this time period is difficult economically for everybody, whether you're buying a house or just paying your electric bill. It will get better. We don't know how long that's going to take, but the reality is this isn't going to last forever. So if we can trudge through it, people pick up some houses, they get out of renting, they start owning, building that wealth personally, they're going to come out on the other side much better off. And there's so much opportunity in these markets where, even with rates at 7%, so much opportunity with less buyer demand, a little bit less inventory, but stuff starting to sit around. I think it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, quick take. I was reading an article earlier from money.com. And Eric, to your point, days on market, Anthony, to your point, days on market, the opportunity right now to try and lay in on some stagnant inventory and get a home seller concession is at an all-time high. And obviously that's how the 2-1 buy down works. If you don't know what the 2-1 buy down is, that's like today's rate is, let's just call it 7%. You can make the seller pay a concession. They pay for that interest rate delta. And year one, you're at 5%. Year two, you're at 6%. You can refi, use that pool of cash at any time towards that refi or directly towards the principal, depending on the lender. And just on money.com, it said nearly 42% of home sellers gave buyer concessions during the last 3 months of 2022. And that is according to Redfin. It's the highest share ever recorded, though they've only really been tracking some of that data since the start of the pandemic. The previous high was actually 41%, and that was in the dead heart of July 2020 when COVID really started and you started to really see things sit on the market and inventory start to become stagnant again. So when we've seen inventory become stagnant is when we see this seller concession option. So that's a really, really high number considering the last couple of years of the market. I personally think those days are completely over with on new inventory, at least right now, right? And I think that's what we've learned. The market here is super volatile. 3 weeks ago, kind of slow out there. All of a sudden, it's the hottest market since June of 2021. It's bonkers out there. So let's just quickly pivot and can we just hit inventory real quick? I know that Eric, you had already mentioned inventory is actually up. So I have a hot take on inventory real quick. I think that what's going to be happening as it comes to inventory, if you think about this time last year, and I know I mentioned this last week, so early March into April is when interest rates started to rise last year pretty dramatically. Okay, so that's when personally we had a lot of inventory on the market and it started really sitting and the buyers were scared. And again, the buyers now are not those buyers. They're new buyers, right, that are seeing these rental increases. So now that we've seen inventory kind of be really low for a while, and I think year over year, you're going to start seeing when we talk about the area market report. So if you're an agent out there, look at the area market review. It's a great report to track year over year progress. Every day when I pull this, it's just snapping the chalk line over the previous year on March 6th. So every day that goes by from here until April, I would expect inventory numbers to flatten out because we're going to see last year's inventory rise dramatically. So right now, as we snap the chalk line, for instance, just in Massachusetts in general, inventory, and this is MLS PIN, right? It's not all of Massachusetts, but it's the local areas. There's 2,939 homes on the market. I think a few more have hit this morning already, probably since I pulled this data. Last year at this time, 2,209. So that's an increase of 33%. Now, dude, it's Monday. You know what happens on Monday? Shit goes pending.
Yep.
Right. So I would expect that when I pull this tomorrow, there's some stuff off market. There's some new stuff coming on market, and the data truly is day by day. So it's not the end all be all report. However, 33% increase in the state of Massachusetts. Average list price is up 8%. Days on market is also up 28%. So that kind of speaks to that lagging data that Eric was talking about a little bit. Units price change also up 29%, which is pretty crazy. And average sale price, any guesses? All of MLS PIN?
Up
3%, 3.16%, right? So listen, I think that inventory will get wonky as the days go by. I expect the gap to be closed as more stuff comes off market and also the inventory builds year over year from the previous year. So it'll be interesting as we do this multiple times a week to kind of stay close to what's happening in the market. But Eric, why don't you kick us off with some South Shore data? What are you seeing down there?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of similar stuff. If we look at Norfolk County, it's a similar increase in inventory. So it's about 31% year over year, but the days on market has increased significantly as well. Speaking to that same point, a lot of this inventory number is just inventory that's been sitting for a little while. We're seeing like double the amount of price changes. And again, interestingly, the average sale price and list price is actually down for this county, but the average sale to list price is, under 100%, right? So the average house is selling for below the list price. And I think that, to your point, as we continue to pull this data, as we do, daily or a couple times a week, we're going to see that number probably creep back over 100%. With all this new inventory coming out and closing, getting good offers right out of the gate over their asking price. So that's kind of what's happening in Norfolk County.
I think that data too is probably a little bit skewed. Like a lot of times, I won't hang my hat on the Suffolk County data because it includes so much of the condo market in the city. Right. And so does Norfolk. Right.
Same for Norfolk. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Ultimately, though, supply, we're still under a month's supply. So it's still absolutely a seller's market
no
anywhere
doubt.
you look, right? And then
I haven't found one report that, and I'm not pulling this by town. Obviously, every town is a straight micro market, and it's going to change right as you cross the border, right? But there's nothing that I've seen that has even a sniff of a lot of inventory close that would even indicate a buyer's market. And I would say a buyer's market is typically countrywide over 4 or 5 months supply. I would actually call a buyer's market here in like the micro market of Boston, like closer to 3 months. We just never have that much inventory.
Right.
So what are you seeing? What are you seeing down in the Plymouth County?
Yeah, Plymouth is similar. They actually have even more inventory. So you talked about Massachusetts being up about 30, 31%, whatever it was. Same thing for Norfolk. So Plymouth County is actually up 71%. So there's a lot of inventory in Plymouth County.
How many homes are on the market in Plymouth?
Yeah, so there's 377 versus 220 at this time last year. Yeah, it is, And
I mean, I guess it's not. How many months of supply is that?
Well, it's still only a little bit less than a month's supply, maybe compared to some of these other counties, right? But it's still not a lot. Days on market, 80 days, right?
I take it back.
Close to 3 months. Same thing, right? We're seeing more price changes in this data. We're seeing the average sale as a percentage of list price still being under 100%. Both counties is actually just about at 99%. Okay. So that's kind of what we're seeing. I can also speak that I have a lot of buyers that we've been seeing a lot more like new construction, new build inventory happening in Plymouth County. I just have a lot of buyers.
The days on market a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, there's just a lot of people that are giving that strong consideration. Maybe they're looking and hoping to land in a place that's a little bit closer to the city. But as you stretch out into some of these Plymouth areas and things where they have more space to build some of these new communities, we're seeing some of this new inventory. And I'm seeing a lot of buyers that are actually willing to step outside a little bit further than maybe where they want to land to be able to get into a situation where they're looking at a nice new build. And, obviously there's a different level of competition there. If you get in at the right time, being able to pick your own lot and put your house together is a different option, So I'm definitely seeing that. I'm not sure what percentage of that is reflected in that inventory number, but it definitely seems to have been growing. I know just like nationwide, new construction is definitely up. We've still been dealt with so many supply chain issues, but it seems like there's finally some new builds coming in the spring market, which I think is nice to add to the mix, But yeah, overall, it's just seller's market, a lot of old inventory, the new stuff's flying through, and I fully expect as we continue to pull this data, it's going to be more reflective of that, where we're seeing homes sell for over asking. We're seeing less units having to do price changes. And I just think from a seller standpoint, it's just like, it's so important, like, to price your home right. Because that's what we're seeing is when the home is priced right, buyers are more aware that their affordability has been rocked back and forth. I think they're sharper, especially if they're paired with a good agent who's educating them about these changes along the way. They're more in tune with, is this property priced right or not? And when a seller has a property that's priced right, we're seeing what's happening now. It's getting the attention that it deserves, and it's going over asking, it's getting tons of offers, and it's getting just a wave of action right away. Whereas we have some of these older inventory situations, or maybe people that are, chasing the market down, are priced wrong. And that's maybe what's, contributing to this days on market stuff. I just think it's so important for a seller to price their place right in a changing market like this.
Yeah, no doubt. I completely agree. And I think I'll make a couple different points on that. So I got to give the Knowledge Broker podcast a little bit of cred for this take. I know that I've been listening to that a lot. I know I sent it out to my team a lot. The Byron Lazine out of Connecticut made a great take, and I'll kind of quote him directly but indirectly. He said, for the agents out there, like if you need to get out of your basement, get out of your pajamas and into homes and check them out, okay? Because the reality is if you are playing the game, if you are in the arena, as he said, you're going to have way more at-bats. And when you're going to these homes, you should be calling your clients. Hey, Eric, I was just at a house in Wilmington. There was 40 people there. It literally suits everything that you've been talking to me about it. Have you seen it? I can meet you up here. I can give you a video tour. And like, if you're going to have better luck converting clients or converting leads, if you are looking at the inventory every single day. So the joke he made is like, get it. You're not going to sell homes in your PJs in the basement. Like, get out there, show homes, learn the inventory, be the knowledge broker, and you will have significantly more traction. Right. So I think to that point, the reason I bring that up is around pricing, right? So something I was giving my clients some coaching on, and we saw this exact same thing happen in Linfield when we had the home on the market last week. There's going to be homes that hit the market this past weekend that end up being second fiddle, that end up with limited to no offers or shitty offers. And the reality is, if you saw it this weekend, or if your client saw it this weekend, even though it didn't fit or check all of the boxes, they'd have the opportunity to potentially put an offer in post-offer deadline after it didn't sell and be able to strike and get something at or below list price as that seller or that seller's agent freaks out, okay? If you didn't go see the home because it didn't check all the boxes, on Wednesday or Thursday when it's still on the market, the people that did see the home are going to take the shot at the property, and they're going to be the ones that end up with it while you're still trying to scramble and get an afternoon showing in on a Wednesday. And they're just going to go back to the people that have already seen it, right? So we saw that happen on the Linfield house. Unfortunately, we were second fiddle. There was 10 offers on a budding property, not a budding, but on the other side of town. And when obviously 9 buyers didn't get that, we had a handful of people through our property, and our property goes pending right after our offer deadline, still over asking, but it was significantly easier for that buyer to acquire the property. So get out into the arena, as Byron says, and look at the market and be the knowledge broker specifically in your hometown that you're trying to grow in. So,
I couldn't agree more.
Cool. Listen, we're up against it here on time. I just want to give a couple other pieces of advice for agents out there that are kind of struggling right now. You should definitely be pulling those area market reviews like Eric and I were talking about. You definitely need to be setting up hot sheets, seeing what is going pending and what is not. And listen, if you have no idea what the hell we are talking about when it comes to CPI, this jobs report, like if you don't know what the deal is, man, then get educated, because the market is significantly harder right now. So you get the jobs report breaking on March 10th. Depending on how many jobs are added or the lack thereof, I think you will see the mortgage bond market respond positively, hopefully.
It's going to respond one way or the other. We know that.
So you think if they add a ton of jobs again, you think we're going to see 775? Is that Anthony's hot take of the day?
I don't want to put that on record, but I'm just saying.
Just go on record. What are you? Is the record police going to come get you next week?
Hey, put it this way: if jobs looks bad, like it did last month, rates are going to get worse. I don't expect that to happen.
Really?
Yeah.
If jobs look bad, so
it looks bad. I think
that's what the Fed wants to see, right?
Correct. Well, no. Well, that depends on how you define bad. So if it looks
job
bad,
loss,
if there are job losses, that's actually a good thing for interest rates.
So if the jobs report looks good, meaning there's more jobs, rates will go up.
Yes. Okay. Agreed.
If the job reports looks bad, which is actually good, then the Fed will be happy and maybe will loosen a little bit in the coming months. But like we said, they're a soft quarterback. They're probably just going to freaking take the knee anyway and keep pivoting on strategy. But either way, pay attention to the jobs report that's breaking on the 10th. We have CPI on the 14th. That'll break bright early in the morning. I'm sure I'll be waiting for Anthony's text from Twitter around what's happening. I don't know. What is it? Zero blog? I don't even know.
Zero Hedge.
It's a Zero Hedge. It's a good follow to learn what's happening with CPI. And listen, as long as that is below expected, we should see some rate relief. knowing that this data last year is what really started to make the run up happen. So ideally, if you're a weighted comp guy, this should be one of the easier reports to come in better on. Is that correct?
I would agree. And going forward, it'll continue that way.
I agree, because we were up against a real shit next 3-4 months when it comes to CPI data. So we should see some downward pressure on rates if all goes well, hopefully. But who knows?
Fingers crossed.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, guys, on the March 6th Market Minutes. I'm sure I will catch you guys again, and hit the phones, boys.
Sounds good. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Seth. Appreciate it.
See ya.